In the early 1990s, Dr. James R. Webb and Mr. Paul J. Everson, inspired by their shared dedication to the advancement of real estate education and research, established the Paul J. Everson Scholarship Fund. Their continued association and respect for each other led to the establishment of the Paul J. Everson Real Estate Center in 2008.
I knew I had to learn how to do research, and so I asked people who was the best real estate researcher out there, and everyone came back and said Jim Webb.
Jim Webb is someone who I've known for many years. The minute that he reached out to me and engaged, I knew that he was a very special man, because not only was he a great academic, but he was a great person.
Jim was a mentor. He wasn't just a professor. He was a phenomenal leader.
Dr. Webb was a very inspiring person. He seemed to have a way to motivate you at all times. Didn't matter what the occasion was or how things were going. He seemed to always be able to get you back on track. One of Jim Webb's biggest accomplishments beyond all of the research that he's produced is the co-founding of the American Real Estate Society. It's been established since 1985. They had their first meeting in Denver. We actually had our meeting last year in Denver to commemorate that. Jim's
power as a professor was one that very few have. He could come to class and not bring any notes, do an entire class right off the top of his head. His ability to share knowledge in those lectures and for people to retain them was mastery. And it went beyond the classroom. He would share stories, conviction. He knew everybody across the industry, and everybody knew him. He was a pioneer.
He was one of those people that when he met you, he asked great questions, but then he really went out of his way to listen. And Jim was someone who was well known beyond the academic world and beyond our region. It's interesting to me that over the years as I traveled nationally, that people would go, "Oh, you're from Cleveland. Do you know Dr. Webb?" And I would right away say, "Of course I know Jim," because I not only knew that he was a really smart guy, but he was a great person.
He was just a very good people person and just a great human being. He never had to tell you to follow him. He just led and you wanted to follow him.
We did everything from researching together. I wrote my very first paper with Dr. Webb. That paper was the seminal paper for global real estate securities written in 1997 that catapulted my career with his name attached to it, opened up so many doors for me. I can't tell you how that changed my life. And that was only the first of many publications that we did together. And yes, he invited me back to Cleveland State. I was a guest lecturer several times. Whenever I would come back, I was always a guest in his home. He was just a phenomenal mentor, an incredible and insightful professor, and an amazing friend all throughout my career. And unfortunately, it ended too quickly with his passing.
Fortunately, I had the honor to be his last graduating doctoral student. And so during some of those conversations outside of the classroom, Jim would share stories of Paul and his conversations about what they wanted to leave for a legacy within the real estate industry. We're fortunate enough that the Paul J. Everson Center at CSU is that legacy.
Paul Everson is someone who I have known for over 30 years, and he was really a mentor to me in many ways.
Paul was a very generous person. He was not a taker, he was a giver.
He was highly dedicated to real estate professionalism.
So the onset of his career really started the professionalism and the education to make what we're doing an industry.
Paul always looked at real estate as a profession, did everything he could every day of his life to upgrade that profession in terms of education, continued education, making the real estate business rise to a higher level. He had a high bar in terms of how he thought real estate should be done, and ethically and honestly, and in serving the public. And he worked every day of his life to make it a profession.
In the 50s and 60s, Governor James Rhodes asked him to become commissioner for the state of Ohio, and he served as real estate commissioner for many, many years.
Paul was a gentleman. He would call me every year on my birthday and wish me a happy birthday. He'd sing.
He would never sing happy birthday to me. But I'd see him on an elevator, I'd see him in a group, and Paul was always smiling. He was singing. He'd hum some little songs. On an elevator, he had these little rings that he would pass out to the ladies on the elevator. Paul was just an extremely outgoing guy. Everybody loved him. I can't think of anybody that had a bad thing to say about him. And we're so proud of Paul, we decided to set up a Hall of Fame locally with the Akron-Cleveland Association of Realtors. And guess whose name we decided to name it after? Paul Everson, because of his involvement, his great activity. He was a man that did many, many things.
When you're a kid and you're going to school, you don't think about these things. But as you get older, it means a great deal, and it meant a great deal to him that the school that he went to and helped make him what he was, recognized him for what he had done. And I think the honor meant more to him than what he had done to accomplish.
Paul believed in education and in professionalism in the real estate industry, and he committed his life to that. It is absolutely no surprise that he's made this lasting legacy gift to Cleveland State University. He's just a very principled man who lived according to what he believed in.
So he put it all together, and he put it together really through Cleveland State University, because he felt that was the place that could make a difference.
He had called me at one time and said, John, I've been working with Jim Webb. I've got this thing I'm doing at Cleveland State. I'd like you to get involved and be on an advisory board. And along with many other real estate professionals, we provided our assistance to provide quality education and advanced education for people in the real estate field. Paul was a catalyst in that.
What never changes is your reputation. Cleveland State should be honored that it was able to help produce a person like Paul.
Cleveland State University is honored to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Webb and Mr. Everson for their contributions to the real estate profession as a whole. It is our privilege to honor them and to thank Mr. Everson for his enduring generosity.